All right, we're going to go over the laws and rules examination for the Georgia State Board of Hearing Aid Dealers and Dispensers. I'm going to do an overview first of things that you kind of must know going in, and then we'll dive in a little deeper. Let's go ahead and get started. Bill of sale, of course, you're going to need to have that at every delivery. You must provide it. It must include the dealer and dispenser information. It should have the make, model, and serial number of the hearing aids. It should list whether they're new, reconditioned, or used. There should be a statement of guarantee and warranty and terms included with the bill of sale. It should, of course, have the price of the hearing aid, refund information, credit information, sale price including discounts, sales tax or trade or allowance, copy of the refund policy, serial number of audiometer used, the date of audiometer's calibration, the name and address of the purchaser, and the name and address of the hearing aid user if different than the purchaser, and date of delivery. There's more specifications for each one of those, but those are must, and it's an overview of the bill of sale. Now let's go into the next section, which is satisfactory relationship between the dealer and dispenser, apprentice, or trainee. So what we're talking about here is the dealer and then their relationships, basically how they do business and the expectations of conducting business between the dealer and the dispenser / apprentice or trainee. Of course, the dispenser, apprentice, or trainee are the ones that provide the hearing aids. The dealer provides the store. So what's the relationship by law? Let's go into some of the overviews. The dealer requires dispenser and apprentice trainee to record the dealer's name, license number, address, office hours on each bill of sale. The dealer will agree to be the office of record holder, which i.e. keep all records, and they're the ones responsible, the dealer, to keep and maintain the record file for the testing, fittings made by the dispenser, apprentice, or trainee. It's of course, the dispenser, apprentice, or trainee's responsibility to make the records, and again, the dealer, it's their responsibility to keep the records for certain times, certain types of records, and we'll go into those later. The dealer agrees to provide follow-up services. What they're talking about there, obviously, is they're responsible to maintain services to the purchaser. So if the dispenser leaves, changes places of employment, the dealer will still continue to service that hearing aid. It's their responsibility. Dealer agrees to provide routine information to the board. So if the board has information on a sale or issues or concerns or complaints, they're not going to go to the dispenser, they're going to go to the dealer. The dealer has to agree to provide that information. The dispenser, apprentice, or trainee will agree to provide the original test records and other documents to the dealer for retention, which retention means to save and to have. So I'm going to repeat that because it's important that the person selling the hearing aid, dispensing, or apprentice, whether it's apprentice, trainee, or dispenser, is going to provide the original test records and other documents to the dealer. And the dealer's responsibility is to save them. All right, that's an overview of that relationship. Let's the high points of it. Let's go into office, store, location established for dispensing the hearing aid. Okay, so these are the locations that the hearing aids are sold, dispensed, or hearing tests are being done. This is important, and you'll definitely see this on your test, but all locations must be licensed by the board with a physical address of actual location, and each store is going to have its own individual dealer's license. And that's important to remember. One dealer's license is not going to include all stores. That will be on the test. Notification of any change in physical address or location, and this must be done within 7 days of change. So basically, if the dealer moves the store, opens a new store, moves it down the street, whatever, or tries to open a new store, they're going to need to have a notification to the board within 7 days of that change. Remember that. Okay, now we're going to go into overview of the procedures, equipment, calibration, and records. Okay, so you need to have appropriate procedures for selection of hearing aids. And okay, this is the procedures that the law is saying that you need to include. You need to do your air and bone conduction for both ears. You need to test for MCL and also the level of discomfort. Masking must be used when needed. Speech discrimination shall be made. The test data can't be more than 6 months old as well. So basically, if someone comes in and they want to purchase a hearing aid, but it's been 7 months since they've had a test on file with you, or if they're bringing one in that you can use, that's not usable. It can't be more than 6 months old in order for you to use that data to dispense. And it must be in the best interest of the person served. So basically what they're talking about there is that whatever you're doing, it needs to be in the best interest of the patient or your client. You need to have the best interest of them at heart when you're making these decisions about hearing aids. You shall counsel persons on the nature and limitations of the services and products. Basically, you don't want to give any kind of false information or hope about how it's going to restore their hearing completely to normal. You have to be honest and upfront about the limitations of what they can expect with the hearing aids. Shall evaluate product dispensed to determine if they were effective by sound field measurement, real ear measurement, or client evaluation sheets. So once you've done the dispensing, you're going to need to determine if they've been effective, if it's working, and you've got to do another test, some type of test to verify that. So you're looking for a verification. Okay, let's go deeper into an overview of the records required. You need to keep all the hearing tests that were given, the medical information that's been provided by a patient, any kind of waivers that's been brought in, of course the bill of sales, all your equipment calibration reports, the date of any test, the name permit of the tester, and if the test is accepted from an outside audiologist or physician, you're going to need that to keep that information on file as well. Now these are the records, the specific records that you must keep for 6 years. Remember this is likely to come up. For 6 years, you're going to need to have the original calibration report. 6 years, keep records of your test. 6 years, all of the bill of sales. 6 years, all the documents related to fitting provided by the dispenser, apprentice, or trainee to the dealer. So also you want any records of outside tests that were accepted to dispense hearing aids. Somebody went down to Costco, got a hearing test, they have the audiogram. They decided not to purchase there, but they give you the audiogram. You decide to accept and dispense off of that. You need to keep that audiogram on file. So again, I'm going to overview the records that must be kept for 6 years by the dealer. This is the dealer's responsibility. Original calibration report, test, bill of sale, all documents relating to fitting provided by the dispenser, apprentice, or trainee. Records of any outside tests that were accepted to dispense hearing aids. Okay. Now let's do an overview of the interstate violations. This is a violation of law, any violations of law regulating fittings or dispensing of hearing aids in any other state while violating that may be considered unethical conduct by the board. So basically, if you go into another state and you violate any type of laws on fitting in that state, whether you're licensed in that state or not, that's considered unethical by the board in Georgia as well. So just remember, you could be held accountable for any kind of fittings that you've done lawfully in another state by the Georgia board. It's related to fittings done here as an unethical conduct. So basically, if you have a license in Florida and Georgia, you're in Florida, you do something unethical in a fitting, getting in trouble there, the board in Georgia can take that issue up with you here, and you can get in trouble here as well. Okay, now let's go in an overview of your apprentice permits. In order to get that, you're going to need to submit a statement from the supervisor, non-renewable 1-year permit. So that's non-renewable. You have 1-year permit once you've passed your exams. Practice while under the supervision of a licensed dispenser. Apprentice permit may be revoked after failing to pass the written portion of the exam on 2 occasions. And you're basically under the indirect supervision from a licensed hearing dispenser, and that's your supervisor. So the difference between an apprentice or trainee is as an apprentice, you're under indirect, and we'll go into that deeper later, and as a trainee, direct. You need to be accessible. Your supervisor or training person, who's a dispenser, will be accessible by telephone during working hours, readily available for direction and guidance. And you also must have a face-to-face contact, a minimum of 8 hours during the work week. And at that point, they want your paperwork to have been reviewed, that's been prepared, and some direct observation of testing. So that's 8 hours, and you're going to need to maintain a record of that, of those face-to-face hours. It needs to include the date that it happened, the duration, and summary of activity. So you're just going to keep a personal file of information on that, a diary of some sort, explaining what you did, the time, how much you did it, and just a little overview of the activity. And there can be no more than 2 apprentice permit holders being supervised by a Georgia licensed hearing aid dispenser. Apprentice permit holders must also have name tags that states that they're apprentice holder or apprentice permit. Dealers also should employ an office sign that indicates that there's an apprentice permit holder present in office. Okay, now we're going to do an overview of the training permit. It's a direct and immediate observation, under direct immediate observation of a Georgia licensed hearing aid dispenser. Now, it's important that you understand that they got to be physically present with the training permit holder at all times. And you have to be with them directly. And that's a 6-month license. It can be renewed. You must keep records of the supervision and supervisor activities and training sessions. And you can only have 1 trainee permit under a supervising dispenser at a time. You should also have name tag, office signage stating that a trainee is involved in fitting. Okay, now let's do an overview, and this is an important section, of continuing education. You want to have a 20 hours biannual every 2 years. You need to have 20 hours every 2 years of CEUs, which is continuing education units. And we'll get into this deeper later, but this is, again, just an overview. These are points that you need to know. Renewal period is January 1st of every even number year to December 31st of the following odd number year. Renewal period, January 1, that whole even number year, through December 31st following the odd number year, and that's when it ends, is the December 31st of the odd number year, and that's the 2-year period. Okay, so now the breakdown of the 20 hours, that some of the must of the 20 hours. You have a 2 hours must be in a medical area, and the medical must be face-to-face only. So of the 2 hours medical training, you've got to have 2 of the hours has to be face-to-face. You're going to need 2 hours mandatory of jurisprudence, which of course is your Georgia laws and rules, like what we're going over here. And you need 2 in patient management. As far as online hours, you can get your online hours, but 6 of these 20 must be obtained face-to-face. So no more than 14 hours can be online. And here's another little point, is you can only get 4 of those hours of online hours during a 24-hour period from any online course. So you can't go and cram up and get all your 14 missed hours in one day. It's got to be spread out. Now, these are some of the proved hours in medical. Those medical hours I discussed, there's 2 of them that's required to be face-to-face. These are some of the breakdown of what the subject matter may be: anatomy, physiology, and diseases of the ear, disease control, and otoscope. otoscopic exams. Approved hours for patient management would be testing, rehabilitation, counseling, impression of the ear, and methods and ways to report your hours to the board. And each licensed dispenser is responsible for maintaining your certificates of attendance, your course descriptions, your syllabus of course for continuing education for a period of 4 years from date of attendance. That's going to be on the test. 4 years from the date of attendance. You're responsible solely to maintain your certificates, your course descriptions, your syllabus, and any certificates. You need to keep a file and keep that in there. If you get audited for that information, and you likely will at some point in your career, you will have to have every bit of that for the hours to count, or you're going to be in a mess. If you do not have your required certificates when audited by the board, this is what I was talking about, they will not renew your license, and it's going to be revoked. So unless you want to start over, keep those hours. Okay, now we're going to talk about unprofessional conduct that can get you in trouble with the board. The board may take disciplinary action against the licensee for unprofessional conduct or committing any professional immoral act. These could be dispensing a hearing aid in the absence of a dispenser or client relationship. So dispensing a hearing aid in absence of a dispenser or client relationship. Basically, if you sell a hearing aid and you've not seen the patient, you've not tested the patient, you don't have the proper testing stuff, you do not have a relationship with that person. So therefore, that would be unethical. Failure of dispenser to supervise their apprentice or trainee permit holder. So once, as a dispenser, you've signed off to supervise an apprentice or a training permit holder, you're responsible to supervise them. And it can come back on you if there's a problem. Failure of dealer to post office signage indicating training or apprentice permit holders are present and active. So, failure of apprentice or trainee to wear a badge or tag identifying the license or permit held. So those are some items that you can get unprofessional conduct issues with the board. Now let's talk about late renewals. And this is going in the times of your licensing again. So each licensee will expire and must be renewed by December 31st of every odd number year. So you have 2 years, ends on the odd number of December 31st. Now, then we are dealing with a renewal period, and it will start that following. So let's say you've not renewed by December 31st of the odd number, then we're going to go into an even number year of January 1, and you have till March 31st of that even number year to do what's called a late renewal. That's a small little window to do a late renewal, and it's going to be 50% late renewal fee added on. And that once that window's closed, you're not going to get your license without going through the whole process again, including testing. So you cannot, now this is important to know though, you can't practice legally after December 31st while you're going through this late renewal period until you get that renewal done. So if you're not renewed at December 31st of the odd year, you're out of business until you get that late renewal taken care of. Okay, let's look at the reinstatement of license then. If at that point this has happened, a person then will reapply for reinstatement, and you have within 1 year of the effective date of the lapsed license, and you're going to need your 20-hour CEU proof, and you're going to need the whole works at that point. You're going to have all your syllabus, your certificates, your dates, your times, all that together. And if it's beyond 1 year, then you're just out of luck. You're going to have to start over. You're going to start over with the written and practical as well. Okay, I'm going to stop us right there. And that's the overview. And then we'll do another video that goes in a little bit in depth. But this video here can possibly be listened to, or when you're in travel or en route somewhere, and it kind of gives you an overview to help memorize the stuff.